Hello everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. I am going to film my January wrap-up. It was a somewhat successful reading month. I am just going to go through the books that I read from least favorite to my most favorite. I read 7 books this month, which isn't horrible, but isn't that great either, so whatever. It's, you know, at least I read, right? January was a weird month. Today has been a weird day. So much stuff has happened today, but I'm trying to stay positive and just keep it pushing. I was supposed to film this video many hours ago, but stuff happened and now we're here and it is like 5:16 p.m. Okay, so I'll start with my least favorite book of this month, and that was Little Black Lies by Sharon Bolton. Now, I read this for the Buzzword-a-thon, hosted by Books and Lala, and my reading is odd. I go more into depth about this book in my vlog, my Buzzword-a-thon vlog. So if you want to know more of my thoughts about it, then check that vlog out. But basically, I gave this book 3 stars. It is about a woman. Well, basically, there's 3 main characters. There is a woman who is trying to figure out why these kids keep going missing on this island, and you know, throughout the whole story you're trying to figure out who is the culprit, who is kidnapping these little kids, what happened to them. So yeah, it's kind of like the unreliable narrator type of thing. I feel like this book was just too long. It kind of got a little bit confusing and lost my interest at points, but you know, if you want to know my full thoughts on this, check out my Buzzword-a-thon vlog because I do go more into depth with this, but it was okay, just definitely not my favorite. Next, I read my first graphic novel that I've ever read, and it's called I Hate Fairyland by Scotty Young. This is volume 1. This was such a super cute graphic novel. It's basically about this girl named Gertrude who gets stuck in Fairyland, and she's basically trying to find her way out. She'll do anything to get out of this Fairyland. This is more of a dark, it's got like dark humor in it, so I wouldn't say this is for a super young audience, even though there's not really like swears or like super graphic stuff in here, but you know, I'd say it's for a little bit more mature audience, but you know, go with that. Take that how you will. But the graphics in here are just so cool. I've never seen any graphics like this. I loved it. This was my favorite part. Just all like the art in here, super cool, super colorful. So yeah, I gave this, I think, a 3.5 star on Goodreads. Well, you can't do half stars. I gave it a 3 star. But I probably gave it like a 3.5. It was pretty good, it was entertaining, and I ordered the second volume, so I am excited to read that, and that's actually going to be on my February TBR. So, this was a cute graphic novel. If you like graphic novels, I would definitely check this one out. It was entertaining. Next, The Shining by Stephen King. I finally finished this book. It took me like a week and a half to get through it. This book, it was like 500 pages, almost. Yeah, 497 pages. It took me a while to finish it, but I did, and sadly I was disappointed by this book. You guys all know what The Shining is about. I think my biggest problem with this is that I saw the movie before reading the book, and it is so different from the movie, like super different. A lot of stuff that happens in the movie does not happen in here, and I feel like the movie was way creepier than this. There were some pretty creepy parts, but overall I just have issues with Stephen King because he really drags out the plot and gives you so much filler information that you kind of just lose interest. At least that's, you know, what happens to me. But I have to say, like, the last 100 pages of this got super intense, and that was probably my favorite part of this book. But, you know, it took me, I can never binge read a Stephen King book. Like, I can never just sit down and read one of his books for hours and hours. I always have to take breaks because it just, sometimes nothing's happening and you just kind of get bored. But overall, I gave this book a 3-star. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't my favorite. I really hope I read a Stephen King book that I just fall in love with, because right now I haven't really liked the books that I've read by him, but this was pretty good. Oh, my cat's scratching at the door. I did like the movie. Well, I'll say this. The movie was definitely creepier than this, in my opinion. There was definitely creepy parts in here, but, you know, it wasn't really all that. Didn't give me nightmares, didn't freak me out, and I didn't have to like sleep with the lights on or anything, or I wasn't paranoid. Sometimes I get like that if you read a creepy book, you know? But yeah, this didn't do it for me, but 3 stars. I mean, it was decent. I would never reread it, but if you do like Stephen King and you haven't read this, then I would definitely recommend it for you. It's worth the read. I don't regret reading it. Just wasn't my favorite. Okay, next we have another book that I read for the Buzzword-a-thon, Black Lies by Alessandra Torre. This is basically about a couple, and there's like I don't really want to say too much. It's like a 50 Shades of Grey beginning to the book, but it's not super similar to 50 Shades of Grey, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of sexual things in the beginning of this book, but, you know, towards the middle and the end, that kind of fades away. At first, the sexual stuff was kind of overwhelming, and I was like, alright, I'm just not into this right now. But then it did pick up. It got pretty good. I think I gave this a 3.5 star. So it's pretty much about this couple, and it's another, you know, unreliable narrator. You don't know who's lying, who's telling the truth. It involves the man in this story's mother, and she kind of gets involved with their relationship, and everything just kind of goes crazy, and I don't want to say why because it's a big part of the story, a big twist. I will say I didn't see the twist coming, which was pretty cool. I would recommend this book to people who kind of like erotica suspense. If you liked Girl Next Door, I can't remember who that's by. Is it by the same author? I can't remember, but Girl Next Door, there's like 3 books in that series. If you like that series, then you might like this book. It wasn't bad, it's just, again, not my favorite. Yeah, I gave this like a 3.5 star, but overall, it was decent, so yeah, I go more into depth about this one as well in my Buzzword-a-thon vlog, so if you want to know more, watch that vlog. Next one is called Freak by Jennifer Hillier. She wrote the book called Creep, which is the first book in this sequel. Not the sequel, the duet. Yeah, I guess that's the right terminology for it. So this one's basically about a woman who falls in love with one of her students. She is a teacher at a college, and he's like, I think he was an assistant teacher or something, but yeah, she ends up falling in love with him, and he's basically a psychopath. That's not really a spoiler. I'm pretty sure it says it in the synopsis of the first book. And then this is kind of like a continuation of the first book, Creep. I did like Creep better than this. I feel like this book wasn't needed for the duet. Like, you could have just had Creep and ended it there and it would have been a good book. Yeah, this was pretty much a continuation of that story. You do not need to read the first one in order to read this, although I would recommend it because you'll definitely know more of the backstory and more of understanding why things happen in this book. But overall, it was pretty good. There was a good amount of twists and turns in it, but I definitely did like Creep better than this one. But yeah, it's your typical psychotic killer, and you don't really know who's lying, who's telling the truth, whose side you're on, things like that. But it was pretty good. It's entertaining. And I think I mentioned this before, but this book is so tiny. Like, compare it to this, I don't know. I don't like mass market paperbacks. I'm starting to really not like them, but yeah. Anyways, that's besides the point. So I think I gave this one a 3.5 star. So yeah, it's pretty average reading month. Wasn't the best. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this book was definitely not what I was expecting it to be. I'm sure you guys have seen this everywhere on BookTube. Everybody raves about it. Everybody loves this book. I do have to say I was slightly disappointed with this one. I think it's really just because of all the hype this book received, and I was expecting like this amazing crazy different book, which it was. I mean, it was super different than anything I've ever read. Different in good ways, but I think it just had too much hype around it, where when I finished it I was like, like, really? Is that it? Like, is that what everyone's hyping about? But if you don't know what this is about, it's basically about a Hollywood actress, and she hires, I think her name's Monique? Was it Monique? Yeah, Monique. She hires Monique to basically write Evelyn's life story, and it goes through all the husbands that she's had and everything she's went through with her husbands. I just felt like this book, okay, how do I explain this? It was good, but a lot of things that happened in here were just super convenient for the plot. Like, everything just kind of fell together. There was like no complication. It was just too easy. Everything was just happening too easily, if that makes sense. If you've read this book, you might know what I mean, but I don't want to give too much away if you want to read this, which I do recommend. I gave it a 4-star. It was a good book. There is bisexuality rep in here, and I believe Evelyn was mixed, black and white mixed, which I liked. You don't really see too much of that in books these days, so yeah, I liked that. And the story was definitely interesting. It kept me intrigued, and I definitely wanted to know what was happening next. But overall, it wasn't anything amazing, and I don't know, it just fell a little bit short for me. It was just too convenient, too cookie cutter. Like, just things were happening without any complications, and it kind of was just, yeah, it was just a little too easy. I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to stop talking about this because I'm sure you guys are sick of seeing this book everywhere. But I gave it a 4-star. I would recommend it. Now on to the last book that I read. It's called The One by John Mars. Again, if you want to know my full thoughts on this book, I made a video recently talking about how this is my new favorite book. I freaking loved it. This is my first time ever reading anything by John Mars, and I don't regret it. I have now bought 2 other books by him, so hopefully those come soon so I can read them this month. But basically this book is about a world where you have to take a DNA test to find out who your partner is going to be. So you take the DNA test and you get the results back within a few weeks, and it'll tell you who you're supposed to be matched with for the rest of your life. Things get complicated because if you're already in a relationship and you haven't taken the DNA test, you kind of have that thought in the back of your head, like, am I really supposed to be with this person? You know, what's going on? There is a serial killer in this book, and you follow like 5 other people that are going through the motions of, you know, am I supposed to be with this person, and just their backstory. This story was so well done. It was super fleshed out. You really could relate to these characters, and even though there's a lot of characters in this book, it's not hard to follow along with them because the chapters are super short and you fly through them. Every chapter ends in a cliffhanger and you can't stop reading it. I definitely recommend this. I gave it 5 stars. This was super interesting. I really love the premise of this book. It's so different than anything I've ever read. So yeah, this one was a success. This is my new favorite book. I freaking loved it. It definitely held my attention the whole way through, and that is something that I can definitely appreciate. So this is my new favorite book. Okay, so those were all the books that I read in January. Let me know the books that you guys read in January in the comments down below, and what was your favorite book of January? What was your least favorite? Let me know. If you like this video, then don't forget to give it a like. Subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye!